Today we're focusing on sugar addiction and how to make sense of sugar addiction and to get rid of a victim mindset. So, sugar addiction, we believe it's addicting. We believe we're addicted to sugar. And our experience is that we are addicted to sugar. You might come home and before you even know it, sugar is in your mouth, whether it's ice cream, some candy, maybe it's just some sweet bread or like a muffin with a little bit of glaze on top. All of a sudden it's in your mouth. Or you're going shopping and you decide to get the cookies. Damn it, why do I always get the cookies? And so, from our emotional experience, sugar can seem to be addicting, and our cultural mindsets reinforce this notion. This notion that sugar is like cocaine, sugar is like a drug. We all know those studies of rats, where the rats were choosing cocaine over food. These rats were repeatedly pressing the button and choosing cocaine, and they were starving to death, but despite their starvation, they were still pressing the cocaine button to get more food. So today, we are having an eating enlightenment. That's the whole point of this channel, having an eating enlightenment to realize the truth about various different food topics, such as sugar, binge eating, and in particular, we're going to be covering some science and some practical tips to give you a new, fresh sight, new vision, and enlightened vision on seeing sugar addiction differently. If you like the video, leave it a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. Let's dive into things. Down below, there's a link that reviews all the scientific studies. It's done by a scientist, Dr. Marcus, out of the University of Massachusetts. And the study highlights the fact that out of all the sugar research that's been done, all the sugar addiction research that's been done, there have never, ever been studies done on humans. All studies that have shown sugar addiction have been done on rats. This is hugely important, and I'm not even going to talk about the main difference between humans and rats. Obviously, there's differences between humans and rats. I'm not even going to talk about that. The main and most important point about the studies that have been done on rats is the fact that the studies done on rats, the rats are basically being tortured. In fact, there's a TEDx video that critiques the most famous rat study of all. The most famous rat study was the one where the rat presses the cocaine button and they die because they get addicted to cocaine. The rat chooses cocaine over life and death. The rat chooses cocaine over life. They starve to death. The rat keeps on doing cocaine instead of food. That's the most famous study there is. There's more and more research out there that just says that that study is blatantly false, and it's so easy to prove it. Because all rat studies, including the one on cocaine and sugar addiction, they all have these rats in like a dark cage. The rat is alone. It is like socially isolated. It's a freaking miserable existence. More and more research is showing that the opposite is true. If the rat is given lots of friends, got a nice wheel to spin around in, it's got nice female rats or nice male rats to mate with, it's got good hearty food, it's got sunshine, it's got that little sawdust stuff where it can roll around in and have fun. The rat doesn't touch the cocaine. It's just a normal rat that doesn't like cocaine. And the same thing is true about rats and sugar addiction. All the rats that have become addicted to sugar, they're like freaking being tortured. It's like a isolation tank. It's like they're in jail and they're got no sunlight and under these conditions the rat becomes addicted to sugar. And so now I need you in order if we're really going to have an eating enlightenment, which is the whole point of this post right here, is to change your perception. And so to change your perception, to open your eyes, we just got to admit, we got to be honest and just say, hey, okay, sugar addiction, maybe it's only under certain conditions. Maybe if I can change the conditions, then the sugar addiction will go down. Now, the study with Marcus that reviewed all the literature on rats and said that rats in deprived conditions become, when rats are alone and when they're in dark cages by themselves, then they become addicted to sugar. That same study also examined 1,495 university students, and it was a pretty rigorous questionnaire. And they asked them things, and it was done with good questions too, where it wasn't just like fill in the blank, but it was like reverse answers, so you had to be engaged to fill it out. Like they asked you the opposite questions, rate 1 out of 10 if you're, instead of 10 out of 10. They asked really good questions and worded the questions really good. And they asked students like, how addicted to sugar are you? What's your experience like with food? What's your BMI? What foods are you eating? And the answers were incredibly clear. 2 conditions supported sugar addiction: a miserable experience around food and eating what they say, quote unquote, foods that lack energy density. So if you are not eating energy dense foods, and if you're freaking miserable when you eat, you're at a increased risk for sugar addiction, to believe you're a sugar addict. But it's only under these 2 conditions, meaning if you eat energy dense foods, basically if you stop eating like crap. If you stop eating like crap, you eat foods that actually give you nutrients. That's one condition that's really going to drop the sugar addiction. And then the other one is not being miserable when you eat sugar. And that's a little bit harder. I'll dive into these 2 points in a second. First of all, around foods that fill you up, I have created a separate post on this, which I'll link to below. It highlights the top 10 foods according to a satiety index that lists these energy dense foods. What's an energy dense food, real quick? The typical example is like chicken. Chicken, it takes up a lot of space. It has a lot of protein, a lot of fat, and when you get foods that have a lot of protein and fat, or they take up a lot of space, generally the foods have a lot of fiber. And fiber is basically, it's just like a naturally existing ingredient, a natural existing element in nature. It's what plants are made out of, basically, fiber. So foods with a lot of fiber that come from nature, that are maybe high in protein, high in fat, these foods take up a lot of space. They don't just dissolve instantly in your belly like a croissant does. A croissant, it hits your belly and it turns into sugar in like 5 seconds. When you get foods that are fibrous and natural, that come from nature, it could be an orange or an apple, or chicken, or nuts, or whatever. But when you get these foods, they stick in your belly. These are energy dense foods. And if you eat these foods, you're gonna be at a way less risk. You're gonna experience way less sugar cravings. And that'll change your perception right away. Like, I challenge you right now, if you are listening to this, I challenge you right now, if you have any sort of doubt that or belief that you're a sugar addict, I challenge you for one day, get a hearty breakfast. A few hours later, get a hearty lunch. A few hours later, get a good snack, and a hearty dinner. I'm talking all foods that are found in nature. Eggs, whole wheat stuff, whole brown rice. Get that good hearty stuff. Meat, avocados, fruits. Some fruits, go with those oranges. Oranges are high in the satiety index. I challenge you to eat this way. And when you eat, to notice this sense of fullness, like this sense of, I say heartiness, heaviness is another good word that previous clients of mine have used. It feels heavy in your belly. It sits there in your belly. It just doesn't dissolve right away into sugar. You know, the fiber takes a while to dissolve. I challenge you to do this for one day. And I'm not saying your cravings are going to just go to 0%, but they'll drop by 50, maybe 80%. Now, let's go into the other point, being miserable around food. This is tougher. This is tougher. It's a more subtle and nuanced point. But the main point of being miserable on food is you can't connect with your body if you hate your food. Meaning, if you hate your body, instead of noticing how crappy sugar makes you feel, like you might notice that too, but your perception is so clouded with self-hatred, so clouded with judgment, that it's going to be very hard for you to actually get a clear signal from your body. Right now, you might get a little signal from your body that, man, sugar doesn't make me feel good, but that signal is being confused by all this self-judgment, and we can't get a clear signal. What happens is that sugar, we have to be honest though too, sugar gives us a high. It gives us a hit. It is like a drug in some ways. It definitely is like a drug in some ways, in the sense that you're in hell. You know, like food is making you freaking miserable, and it's ruining your confidence, and it's creating a hole in your heart. I get that. I get it. I'm not trying to say that's wrong. It's okay. But sugar then, when we have this hole in our heart, sugar then is a temporary balm. It's a temporary cooling. Instead of this pit of fire, it is a cooling where the fire is temporarily put out. And what I mean by this is you disconnect. You're stressing out about yourself, you're hard on yourself, that voice in your head is just ruining you. And sugar for a moment, that treat, that sugary ice cream at the end of a stick, or that maybe it's a cupcake. You know, from the moment you begin to think about the cupcake, from the moment you eat it, those 2 moments, that situation in time, it makes you feel good. It's a little bit of a hit that makes you feel good. It's like a drug. Now, please think about this from an emotional perspective. Emotionally, you're in hell, and emotionally, you get a little break, a little reprieve when you start thinking about sugar and eating sugar. And then, of course, the guilt snaps in, and you're even worse off. But, if we don't hate ourselves, if we do this whole compassion dance, if we really do this whole compassion dance and to meet our emotional needs and to learn to love our body, maybe we stop hating ourselves so much. And maybe when we stop hating ourselves so much, we don't disconnect. And maybe when we don't disconnect, then the sugar doesn't give you the benefit anymore. Because imagine if you stayed connected and you felt that pain. Yeah, we're going there. We're talking about the pain. Imagine if you kept on feeling the pain even as you ate the ice cream. You know what I hear people say when they stay connected to the pain and they eat the ice cream? They say, F this ice cream. It doesn't even taste good. They say, F this ice cream. I ate it and the pain didn't go away and the ice cream didn't make me feel good. I don't even want ice cream ever again. So if you're miserable, if you don't have a loving relationship with yourself, if you aren't able to respect who you are, then of course you're going to go to sugar. Of course. It's like you're a human being. You are a spiritual being. You have the utmost potential. But if you are not in alignment with truth, you are like a rat trapped in a dark cage. And when you are trapped in a dark cage, you will experience sugar addiction. That's one of the conditions. So, perhaps we're ending on a dark note, but I want to challenge you. I want you to try to take a day where maybe it's a weekend. You don't have nothing to do, or you don't have much to do, and you're able to go on a hike. You're able to do something you like, something you've been meaning to do. And during this day, you make sure you have enough food where it's hearty food. You eat hearty food. You're like happy. You're happy, right? You're not a rat trapped in a cage. You're a happy rat. And when you're a happy rat, let's see what happens to the sugar cravings. Let me know. Peace.